Rituals, more like bituals. God, these just keep getting worse. Ritual monsters are a very certified funny moment in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. An entire card category created basically just because they want to relinquish some BLS to be special, I guess. Why they didn't just have these as Nomi monsters, considering those also existed alongside these in, coincidentally, Pegasus's Toon lineup, I still don't fully get, but screw it. Blue. I guess on the bright side it meant that early rituals had some searchability, which would be nice if anyone wanted to play the damn things. Breaking your hand with at least 3 cards, 2 of which were very specific cards but was ultimately a vanilla, was not a good game plan. Unless your game plan was losing, in which case I congratulate you on your dual avatar deck. Granted, it'd see the occasional meta relevance, Demise being one of the few early examples, because it turns out in old Yu-Gi-Oh! It didn't matter how many cards bricked you if you could fire away their field with a spicy 2K LP. And then came Gishkis, and oh boy, they— Look, just watch Rada's video on them. He explains it well and you won't notice the difference since I've basically been bootlegging his humor anyways. And years later, in 2014, when every summoning method got a renewal, so did rituals. We were the original tiers, you cunts! They went above and beyond by making rituals insanely easy to search, as well as giving them powerful effects for the metagame at the time. Aside from their own stuff, they had searches like Preparation and the Manju Menage a Trois too, guaranteeing that you'd always have access to everything you needed, as well as this fat fuck. But then they got their asses sent to ban list hell, where they got to spend some time with another ritual analog, kind of. So rituals went quiet for a while, aside from the occasional dry heave of things like Shino birds. That is until a meteor descended from above, killing the dinosaurs that are dumb, stupid, dumb, ugly, stupid, fat, moron, dumb, stinky fucking idiot!
Drytrons came onto the scene.
They were an interesting little ritual deck where the non-rituals had 2k attack and were level 1? While their bosses were level 12. This sounds like complete insanery, bordering on Arcana Forcery, but their ritual spell really puts things into context. Mediona's Drytron is the best fucking ritual spell that the game ever put out. It steals the revival idea from the Vendread ritual spells, can recur itself so you can get out at least 2 ritual summons in a turn, can be used to ritual summon things outside the archetype, and the kicker, it uses attack instead of levels to summon stuff, meaning that these 2 level 1s equal 12. Eat shit, math. And the main deck dudes were no slouches either. They could easily snowball advantage, all having special summon conditions to revive themselves from hand or graveyard. This is made better by their effect to tribute themselves to summon one another, meaning that tributing one for a summon wasn't necessarily a loss. More important was that they could tribute a ritual in hand, meaning they could tribute something to summon, then revive it with a ritual spell. Their only real downside was that they locked you into Nomi monsters, but that won't stop Boral Sword, so why should it stop you? When these hit the scene in Genesis Impact over in Japan, they sure did exist. People kind of passed them over, and I'm mostly assuming it's because of the captain of the SS Let's Start a Fucking Argument. Then they came over here. Holy shit! I don't know if it's solely because of the bug or because of Japan's aversion to combo, but this deck went nuts over here and was one of the few archetypes that could stand toe-to-toe with full power VFD, making him very fucking dead. Now, let's take a quick sidetrack to talk about
Failure.
Herald of Perfection was another old example of a meta ritual deck, popping off against frogs and blackwings back in the Synchro era. It focused on using these little fairy hand traps to protect yourself, and then summoning Herald of Perfection and just rubber stamping all their cards with a funny Edo Pro negated symbol. Years later, during New Challengers, a sequel arrived. Herald of Ultimateness! No one played it! Being level 12 at a time where ritual levels still mattered in terms of investment, while not being that much stronger than the original, killed this lad.
Would you look at that? He has exactly 2,000 attack. Interessante.
By utilizing Captain Kissable over here, as well as the card that I had because I was stupid enough to buy Wave of Light, you can continuously search and stay up on card advantage, while ending up with something like 6 fucking Omni Negates and Summon Negates. These little lads recurring from the graveyard also meant that they could get into a grind game if they needed, so they had more gas than people expected. Union Carry was a staple of the deck at the time too, because what crime scene did he not show up at? He was able to get a 3rd Drytron name into rotation to always keep you going. And then he got banned. Fortunately, VFD also got banned to keep him company. However, as the deck seemed dead on arrival, the world's worst set arrived to save the day. This set could have literally just been Diviner and Mu Beta and no one would have cared. Diviner here acted as our own Manju, but with a lot more flexibility. She could change her level by milling, and she'd mill Herald to search for ritual stuff. And oh, would you look at that? She's level 6 now. Oh, hey, Ben 10, how many of those funny stars you got?
Oh shit, you're Beatrice.
So off of this combo, they could consistently get to milling Eva to refill your hand for ultimateness, and Moo Beta made sure that your 2 Drytrons in hand always led to your standard end board of ultimateness and whatever else your heart desired, Appaloosa usually being a good choice. So the deck became this big-ass glass cannon, being nigh unstoppable if it pulled off what it wanted, and kind of floundering at other times due to needing 2 different names to work despite the high searchability. Droll was one of the cards of choice to stop them, as well as... Is that a fucking ally of justice?
I thought printing those was illegal.
But after a while, the deck got in the way of new product! So Eva finally got banned long after Ben 10's limit and Union Carrier's murder. And with that, the deck's competitive viability tanked, only really sticking around at Rogue thanks to Majesty's Blajesty and the Fairy Consortium. People would experiment with things like Megalith and Vendreads in the meantime, but nothing ever really came of it. It was a deck whose sundown had come. But that doesn't mean we're done here. Oh no! Because first, we need to talk about Mother Grizzly's sci-fi epic over here, Ursarctic. Now, Phantom Rage introduced a pretty novel idea of combining decks with similar aesthetics or ideas behind them like FA and UA, or Raid Raptors and PKs, both of which worked out pretty well. But it wasn't limited to legacy support, or even just anime support. Oh no. See, if Secret Slayers was the meta bombshell with a deck that took a while to get its potential, a deck with severe staying power, and a deck that was too strong to have its power unrestrained, then Ancient Guardians was more of a meta dud. A deck that took people a while to realize it was fucking awful, a deck that faded out of existence the moment it released, and a deck that's too weak to get anything out of even a fucking +7! I am, of course, talking about the Bears. These things, unlike Drytrons, didn't particularly synergize well with anything, let alone Drytron, despite having similar theming. Much like Drytrons reinvented ritual summoning, Ursarctics here aim to do the same for synchro summoning, bringing around the first true so-called dark synchro mechanic to the real game. And they fucked that up royally, since it turns out only being able to summon monsters with levels, as the Bears do, and having limited synchro options thanks to your deck's literally backwards mechanic while minusing out the ass to get 2 fucking bodies on the field, does not do you much good. The crux of the issue is that Drytrons could revive from the graveyard to make the tribute an even 0. Drytrons had tools like Ben 10, the ritual that Alpha could search, could then search Diviner, could then search more rituals, but Bears can't tribute anything that'd be useful. They tribute themselves, but don't actually benefit from being tributed or do much aside from be okay turn 0 disruption, which sounds strong on paper, but the amount of Ursarctics you have to run and how hard you have to empty your hand kind of negates this harder than fucking a Mergeroid call. I know it feels weird for me to bring up a deck that Drytrons literally have no synergy with, as Drytrons lock you out of Ursarctics, and Ursarctics lock you out of Moo Beta, but as it turns out, Konami is completely butt-fucking sane. Field Spell Fusion, baby! This is real. On one hand, I appreciate the wacky concept. On the other hand, could you really not use this in something like Triamid, a deck that could actually make use out of it? Instead, these 2 decks get what could have been a life preserver ending up being a rock on a chain! It's such a bizarre thing to do for 2 decks that have negative synergy with one another, and I can't figure out why they did it aside from the similar aesthetic. It doesn't even do anything that impressive aside from a search, which Drytron had no issues with already, so why bother with this? Drytron is, as of now, pretty dead and buried. But unlike decks like Dual Avatar that step outside their house and immediately trip and crack their neck, Drytron actually had a pretty successful lifespan. From dominating tournaments and holding their own against an insanely oppressive deck, being a standout choice in general in the meta, it was a new spin on ritual decks that really brought the game's first ritual machines to the game with all the force of a supernova. I'll pour one out for these rad-as-hell space dragons, and I'll keep watching with eager interest if they ever get another shot in the ring. Or for another deck to reinvent the mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Hello, and thank you for coming to my hour-long presentation on all my political views. The doors are locked. Now then, number 1. White people.